and it's a day to be a little nervous, and I'm not even saying that facetiously. The whole world has been covering this story, and it is, and I'm being again very sincere. It is a luxury of being a celebrity because people go missing every day. People go missing all the time, like a lot more than we know about, a lot more than is reported. But when you're Savannah Guthrie, you have, I mean, and I'm not holding anything against her. She's got the ability to do everything she can to save her mom. And obviously a tremendous break getting a picture. Why has it taken so long? That's the big, huge question I have.
Why do you
Um,
think, Arthur?
I don't know. I mean, I have no clue. Unless they had to jump through some real technological hoops. I have the Ring doorbell, but there's like a lot of variations of it. And if you don't pay for the subscription services, I don't. It's not recorded, but my guess is it's probably recorded on some
Yeah.
far drive farm somewhere in Middle America or somewhere, and maybe they had to
Hmm.
find. I don't know, but I mean,
My
is it or is
theory
it? It
is
doesn't
that,
take a very long time to find this thing.
listen, Sheriff Barney Fife had control of this investigation until about 5 days ago when the FBI came in. And to your point, it's absolutely true. And it is what it is. People go missing all the time, people vanish all the time. Most people don't have the president of the United States calling them directly and saying, hey, I will give you the full force of the FBI and the NSA and whoever you like. I think the feds got in there and were like, hey, you dummy. Like, yeah, we can go to Nest, we can go to Google, and they can recover this imagery. And I think the timing of them releasing this, Kash Patel released three reels on Tuesday afternoon, one after the other. And tell us what you know, what your experience with law enforcement is, Arthur, of the timing of this, because I would bet they have a suspect they like a lot for this. And they are releasing this footage to make this suspect very nervous, to tighten the noose and see if this suspect panics. What do you think?
Um, well, it's interesting just from a civil lawsuit from point of view. They're already saying now nobody can identify who this person is. At least we can't, right? But they're like,
Mhm.
the person in these images is not a suspect or a person of interest. Like, really? There's a guy with a mask and gloves covering up a Ring doorbell or
And a
video
gun.
doorbell, and he's not a person of interest. We're just merely trying to identify the person. Like, come on, just be honest with us. I think that's a tremendously accurate theory by you that, like, hey, they are now shaking his tree and saying, we have a pretty good idea who you are. We're now with new technology, we'll be able to identify you with the irises of your eyes or the brand of hat that you're wearing or the brand of gloves. I mean, it's pretty incredible the technological advances, even over the past 5 years, let alone the past 10 years, how they could, look at a jacket, a glove, a hat, a scarf, and know, well, those scarves in this area are only sold at this particular Walmart. And they go to the Walmart, and then, I mean, then they look at the cameras there and say, well, who's buying those scarves? And let's look at the past month and who bought a scarf there. I mean, it's crazy how they dig so deep, and God bless them for doing it to identify who this individual may be. But I mean, look, if you're Savannah's family, if you're Nancy's family, honestly, and you can answer this question, like, does this make you feel better or worse? I mean, seeing a
You know,
guy
I was
with
I
a
was talking
mask
to
at your front door, and it looks like there's reports that you may see a gun in his
yeah,
waistband, and like,
you do.
I don't know how that makes me feel. Like, as I said,
Well,
better or
here's the
worse.
thing. I was talking to Phil Holloway about this of MK True Crime, your colleague. And in my reporting for American Predator, which is about the worst serial killer the FBI has ever seen and who visited horrific things upon his victims, to a one, every family member they said, we want to know everything that was done to our loved one. The not knowing was worse than the knowing. And for them, it was a way of honoring everything that their loved one may have gone through, a way of sort of being with them as much as they possibly could. What did you make, Arthur? By the way, to your point about how with technology right now in 2026, maybe it'll be by the irises of the eyes, maybe it'll be like a tiny little piece of facial hair that fell off. Remember, they got OJ with the Bruno Mali shoe. And that was like what, mid 90s?
94.
So imagine today's technology applied to a guy like this, who to my eyes does not look terribly sophisticated, but looks awfully comfortable at that front door.
Well, it's just scary, right? I mean, it's if you're a family member and you're thinking of your mom and she's, 84 and yeah, like imagine if like we don't know what happened. Imagine she opens the door and there's this guy in a mask. I mean, it's terrifying. And look, I've never been in that position. I don't ever want to be in that position. I don't know. Do I want to know how my mom met her demise and if it was horrible? And I mean, I don't know. And I hope I never know. But the bottom line is, the bigger question I really have, and it's where I started off, is like, what took so long to get? I mean, it should not be that hard to get. I mean, wasn't she reported missing on the first? We're at like 10, 11 days. And
Yes, we're well
now we're
into
just getting
this.
now we're just getting this footage from the doorbell. I mean,
Well, the feds probably had it a few days ago, don't you think? And they're timing this out, and because Savannah's been releasing these videos. Savannah released a video only hours before, maybe 12 hours before Prakash Patel posted this video to his X account. So she had to know it was coming, don't you think?
well, I would like to think that she's not finding things out through press conferences, and I'm sure they're giving her the professional courtesy of bringing her up to speed. But if I am a journalist at a press conference, I mean, that's the first question I'm asked. It's like, what took so long? Now, I guess they could say, oh, we've had it for 3 days and we were waiting. But even 3 days, like, all kidding aside, the fence broke at my house in Long Island. And my contractor's like, do me a favor, look at the Ring doorbell. And we saw that the guy who picked up the garbage, he fenced with the truck. I mean, it took like 12 seconds to figure it out. Like, I mean, it's just a little weird the amount of resources. As you said, you have the president of the United States working on this case to some degree. And we're just figuring this out now. That's something doesn't smell right about that part of it. But again, at least it's something, and it's something now that they can work on. And hats off to the FBI and everyone else who's not at a basketball game working. I mean, talk about a silly move that was, right? The sheriff going out. I mean, look, it's one thing for him to
so unprofessional and stupid and distasteful and disrespectful. And that action alone says to me he should be turfed from this case, because he clearly doesn't have any sense of shame or proportion to go, you know what, that was really out of line. The same night that Savannah Guthrie is sitting between two of her siblings and pleading for what sounded like in that video, the Saturday night video, the return of their mother's remains. Savannah's videos vacillate, and understandably so, between seeming to accept that her mother may no longer be with us and believing that her mother is still out there and alive.
Yeah, that's common sense, public relations stuff. Look, everyone's entitled to a break. Everyone's entitled to take a deep breath. Sometimes it actually helps. It clears your head, but you don't go to a public basketball game or anything like that. You stay home. Look, I don't even mean maybe the guy needs to watch a movie. Maybe he needs to watch Rocky 3 for a couple hours.
That's fine. Nobody would deny you that.
Right,
no,
exactly.
But you don't go somewhere where there are cameras. This guy loves the media attention. It doesn't matter if it's bad attention or critical attention. You saw that presser with the FBI and like all the journalists. Every time Barney Fife got in front of the podium, they were like, no, sir, please make way for the adults in the room who can answer a question.
Yes. I agree. The bottom line is there was a major breakthrough with these photos, with this video, with what the person looked like, their size, their height. And again, with the modern technology, they probably know exactly how tall that person is.
Yep.
Approximately within a couple of pounds, how much that person weighs.
Size of the foot.
There's so many things that they'll be able to grasp. And look, I hope you're right to some degree. Maybe they had that video 3 days ago. It still seems like very long for me, and that they're working on it and they have substantial leads. to, at some form or another, give some closure here.
Arthur, do you have any sense of how, now that we've all seen this harrowing, unmistakable footage of the person who took Nancy? Do you have any sense of how long it should be now that the FBI is deeply involved in this case to for them to make an arrest?
No, I mean the bottom line is, and people may not want to hear this, but sometimes luck has a lot to do with it. I mean, think about the Luigi Mangione case. I'm not taking
Mm-hmm.
anything away, and that's the person, the young person here, and who shot the United Healthcare executive. Um,
Brian Thompson, yep.
there was a lot of luck in finding him. He happened to be sitting eating something with a mask on. I mean, my understanding is he was identified by his eyebrows. That someone in the fast food joint said, that looks like the guy they called. And even the cops said, when they got the call, they were like, okay, yeah, this is going to be the Luigi Mangione kid from New York City. And it was, right?
Right.
That was kind of a lucky break. I mean, yes, the NYPD was able to follow him on all of their cameras throughout the city of New York until they couldn't anymore. And they just knew he had left the city, but no one knew where he was. I'm using a real life for an example. There was a lot of luck in that. Again, I'm not belittling anyone in law enforcement, but having luck on your side, it doesn't hurt. Now, there's also an expression: the harder I work, the luckier I get. So
Exactly.
these guys are working very, very hard around the clock. I'm not minimizing that whatsoever, but they could use a lucky break here in one form or the other. You said something about dropping a hair or dropping, whether it's shoes or something that would give them some clue of who they're dealing with. And then they have to find out where that person may have gone. Nobody would have thought Luigi was where he was in that location, in that state, in that fast food place. So, and I don't know, there's so many theories out there, and I hate to even repeat them about different countries. But what's the end game? I mean, the end game is supposed to be to collect money. If it's truly a kidnapping and it truly has to do with ransom, the end game is, how are we going to get $6 million, $7 million? And it doesn't seem like that's really happening that we know of. And let's face it, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes in these types of situations that the public never, at least at this point, does not know of. And then we hear about it after the fact.
Exactly. And I want to ask you about that, but just going back to the way Luigi Mangione was caught and the element of luck, whoever took Nancy kind of strikes me as somebody who hasn't really done a crime of this magnitude before. In much the way, as far as we know, Luigi Mangione never committed a crime of this magnitude before. And I think with criminals like that, there comes an element, law enforcement is kind of waiting for them to just slip up, to make a mistake, because the amount of intellectual and emotional, physical energy you have to expend to evade detection in a post 9/11 AI driven America is a lot, a lot. Do you think that there is a disconnect between the authors of these ransom notes and the perpetrator? Because as we know, the deadline, the 5 p.m. deadline for Monday has passed. And that deadline, we were told, was the final one, meaning that without the money, they were going to kill Nancy. And as far as we know, the money has not been deposited and nothing has happened.
But, the key of what you just said is, as far as we know. I can tell you
Mm-hmm.
from being involved in cases like this, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that the public doesn't know until later, or sometimes the public never knows. So, we have to be cautious about, articulating what we think is really happening, because we don't know what is
Of
really
course.
happening. But, and we don't, usually if you're reading crime novels and crime statistics, there's usually some indication that someone is alive.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't heard of that. Now, I don't think Savannah Guthrie is going to go on do these big videos and not allude to something like that. Like, Mom, we know you're alive. And you, I think, accurately narrated that, it sounded like at one point they were looking more just for her mother's remains. But then the next video sounds like they're hopeful that she's still out there. So, the truth is, there's a lot of, as we all know, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and some of them may be answered. I mean, that's my overriding point here. There may be things that the FBI knows. There may be things that the family knows. I'm involved with a high-profile death out here in Long Island. And there are things that, the family and I know that the media doesn't know. There are things that the district attorney's office knows that they haven't even shared with us, but they've told us they know it. And they're still waiting to finish their investigation because they don't want to soil anything. They don't want to put anything in someone's mind. They don't want to show their hand, so to speak. So, I mean, there's a lot to this story that is yet to be told. And at the end of the day, you always, you got to be hopeful. You got to pray. And I know some people are like, oh, stop it, Arthur. But yeah, no, the praying part actually helps. I've been involved in these situations, and you got to have faith, and you have faith in law enforcement that they're doing everything they can. You got to have faith in your mother that she's doing everything she can and that she's still with us. And Tom Petty has the song, "The waiting is the hardest part." It's such a helpless feeling just sitting there, and you don't know what to do as a son, a mother, a child, whatever it is. You're just sitting there like, what do we do? I need to do more. There's a desperation feeling, and there's nothing to do.
Yeah, and I think that's why Savannah has been publishing these videos. It's what she knows how to do, as a
Cathartic.
journalist, is to
It's cathartic.
communicate.
It's cathartic too. It makes you feel like, all right, I'm
Yep.
trying to do something. I mean, people have talked about how come the reward is so small. There's all kinds of, FBI
Yes.
theories about that and studies about that. That if it's too high, you start getting all kinds of fake calls and fake
Mhm.
thing, and it doesn't come off the right way. So, I mean, you got to trust that the FBI knows what they're doing and knows how to handle these situations. And even as a family member of Nancy's, you got to just put your faith and your trust in them, in the professionals. I mean, this is the best and the brightest that the United States has, and maybe that the world has. And you just hope that at the end of the day, I mean, could you imagine if this woman comes up alive? I mean, there'll literally be like a ticker tape parade here in New York City, the way everyone is so invested.
It would be incredible. And just to your point about the FBI and what the reward sums tend to be, and if they feel to the lay public like insultingly low or just way too high, the FBI completely knows what they're doing when it comes to these kinds of negotiations. I mean, in my own reporting, the FBI would talk to me about like never depositing a full ransom amount in a bank account. You want to deposit just enough to incentivize, at least in this case that I wrote about, to incentivize the perpetrator to begin communicating, to frustrate them a little bit. You can have some of it, but you're not going to get all of it until we get the person back. So there are always these it's a psychological war game. And I do think the release of these videos, these horrifying videos from Nancy Guthrie's front door, this, I think, is really the FBI engaging in psychological warfare with their prime suspect.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I will tell you my first reaction when I saw that
Mm-hmm.
video.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, even though we kind of know what's going on, even though you kind of imagine what happens, it's the reality of it when you actually see it, and seeing some dude with a mask and
I
gloves and a
know.
gun at your old mom's door.
I
It's like,
know.
you're just like, oh my God, like this is reality. Like, reality is now, it's in my face. And there's no chance, not that there really ever was, but like this being an innocent mistake, or her wandering off, or something that's a lot less violent. Because let's face it, that's violence. Next week it's Friday the 13th. That's like a Friday the 13th kind of situation. Like, someone's coming to the door. That's actually this
That
week. It's
guy
just Friday
means
the
to
13th.
do harm.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's right out of a movie. And it's like,
Well, let's
wow.
just hope whenever they catch this guy, because they will, I have no doubt about that, that when this person tries to mount a defense, no offense to the defense attorney and you, Arthur, I was out of my mind. I was on drugs. I have a history of mental illness, that all gets knocked down, and that this video of this premeditated, very casual attempt to, obfuscate their image by grabbing vegetation and putting it over the camera lens, that thing never disappears, because that is somebody who was taking pleasure in what they were about to do and tried to get away with it. Today's show is sponsored by Cowboy Colostrum. Colostrum is the first milk that cow babies receive from their mothers after birth, and it's often called liquid gold because it is packed with proteins, natural growth factors, and antimicrobials. Three things that can enhance your immune response and also reduce inflammation, repair and balance gut lining, and reduce bloating. It can even make your hair and skin look amazing. Cowboy Colostrum offers the highest quality cow colostrum in the US. They don't overprocess or strip their colostrum. They leave it whole with full fat and high protein for ultimate nutrient density. It's sourced from 100% grass-fed cows here in the US with all natural ingredients and no artificial flavors. You can add Cowboy Colostrum to your coffee or smoothie. It's simple and easy. You get this little frother with it and you just whip it up. The whole process is really satisfying. I love it. For a limited time, our listeners will get up to 25% off your entire order. Just head to cowboycolostrum.com/Maureen and use code Maureen at checkout. That's 25% off when you use code Maureen at cowboycolostrum.com/Maureen. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them you're a troublemaker and the Nerve sent you.